everyone. Welcome back to the latest edition of The Doctor Will See You Now. You know, if you are a frequent viewer, that the Doctor loves a challenge and the Doctor loves to be surprised and taken maybe on a journey she wouldn't herself have chosen. But I have to say, I am so grateful to Quercus, who choose the most amazing novels to publish, and they brought me something. Well, it's been an experience, and I would challenge you as crime readers. You may have a favorite author, a favorite subgenre, style. Fine, great, but why not dip your toe or your eyes or your ears in something where you might not have gone, and you may be extremely pleasantly surprised. Which brings us to today's consultation. It is, well, I just want to say thank you for the challenge that I've been presented. Amon Alonge, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me, Vicky.
It is an absolute pleasure. We are here to discuss your debut thriller, and what a thriller. And we'll look at how you've created that. I mean, we often talk about a roller coaster ride in a thriller novel, but I think yours has been turned up to the max.
I
Yeah,
know.
I think that. The novel itself is called A Good Day to Die, and it's part of the Pretty Boy thriller. And I can say series because there is a book too, is there not?
Yes, yes.
Yes, and we'll have a wee, just a wee notion of that right at the end. But we want you, viewers and listeners, we want you to be into this first book, so you get an idea of who Pretty Boy may or may not be. As I say, published by Quercus. The hardback was out earlier in the year, 2020, but we're here to celebrate the publication of the paperback. Yeah, so great for those trips. Take this, I mean, we're here recording this in the summer. Take this on a holiday trip with you. Yeah, it'll go just beautifully by the side of the pool or by the beach side. It's just, yeah, got to be had. I have to ask you, if I may, though, what is a lovely person like you doing in the murky world of crime fiction? Because I have seen and read that yours on the other side is the legal profession, is it not?
Yes, yes.
Tell us about you and how you got to what led you to write what has now become a series, but what took you to this first novel? Why?
For me, I think when I first came to London for university, I really enjoyed the city, but I sort of felt like a visitor because the intention of my parents
Yes.
or my dad was to just go back. So I sort of looked at everything from a sort of, from sort of surface level. And then I think when I decided to stay myself and then decided to go a bit under the surface, that's when I just realized that underneath all this, underneath beautiful London and tourist London and whatever London, there are these things that happen. And I just felt, you know what I mean? I like the idea of that, and I like that happening almost in plain sight. And to be fair, the genres I enjoy reading or watching is pretty close. Like, I'm a big fan of The Wire, and I thought,
Yeah.
what would something like that in a city like London look like? What would it sound like? What would it be like? And so just all those things, and and I do like writing action. So yes, it was just a combination of a lot of things I loved and I enjoyed, and I sort of came up with an idea, and the theme is vengeance, and vengeance is something that that sticks to me because very early on in my life I sort of realized that vengeance is never ending. That's the word I'll use for it, and that's the sort of the theme I'll continue with, because someone goes out and has his vengeance, and then there's imperative for the person or the family of the person to have the vengeance, and it just keeps going. But I like the idea of completely focusing on just one character's quest for vengeance, and completely, almost being in it with him. And then when you look at it from different points of view, people are like, oh, this is really unnecessary. And that quest for vengeance sort of results in other stuff in the second book and in the third book. And it's just to show that it just never ends. And somebody just needs to stop.
I am so pleased. It's really interesting because that was a question that I had towards the end, but you've brought it in now because I was intrigued to know, again, somebody who, who's, well, I wonder when the time will come when your professional life and you'll be an author rather than in the legal profession. Are you still practicing as a lawyer?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Great. But thinking, the notion of vengeance and revenge, and I wondered, where you stood on it, thinking this could be a tricky conversation. Now, you made your, that position clear. That of course, when you set a ball like that rolling, how do you stop it? Who gets to have the last word or action?
Yes.
Yeah. And then again, I think as readers, what moral or ethical stand do we take?
Yeah.
When things occur, whose side do we take? Why do we take that? Do we stand back? Do we condone things? It's tricky, isn't it?
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree. And that's almost why, maybe not why, although it sort of helped in that, the book is written in two narratives. There's the first person, and that's sort of how, because you in it with him and you feel his burn, and that way you almost don't question it a little bit. You almost like, oh, he really needs this cathartic moment. He really needs to do it. But then when you go from the other perspective, of the person that is a bit more, the other narrative, there's a bit of, the third person, and it's a bit more fun. And then you sort of realize that, okay, these things, he doesn't really need to do these things that he's doing.
Yeah.
And you question it.
Yeah, like what drives him, and really, is there any need to be so driven?
Yes, yeah.
So this seed that then has become, A, the novel, B, the series. Can you pinpoint a moment in your life when you thought, I'm going to put my fingers on the keyboard and make this start to happen?
I can pinpoint several moments when I thought I should do it. And I just thought, number one, not that I didn't think I was good enough, but I just didn't think it was, I didn't think I'll have the opportunity to do it. You know what I mean? And I thought, oh, I'm busy. I don't want to just write something and just leave it on my computer. But I didn't think the publishing world would be very receptive to people of my background, and not just not just the color, just I'm from Nigeria, and you know what I mean, and no, and I suppose for what I was writing as well, like there are a lot of minority authors, but they don't really write like hard crime fiction. They write they write what they write, and they write it well, but you know what I mean, there is no sort of child, there's no, even the characters, there's no one standing out, you know what I mean, that is morally ambiguous but is black or whatever, and written by, and also I just thought, but then I thought, if the story is good, I think people would read it.
Exactly.
So,
and that, I think that is so, I mean, I think it is extremely important that we as readers have the greatest diversity of characters and storylines and identities and backgrounds. But I think the other side of that coin is this a good story? And if it is, it will not be held back by any of those impediments that people may place there. And I think that is so exciting when you see, a novel just fly.
Thank you.
And honestly, do people come along at a time when a certain story, voice, perspective is necessary, is needed, and that you get, you are that person that has brought us this, and that's wow.
Thank you.
So you as the person who came from Nigeria to study, and has since stayed on.
Yeah.
Do you still have family back in Nigeria?
My mom is, but the rest of my family is in London.
Yeah.
And I think my wife and I went to visit, like because of the pandemic, time to sort of like
Of
flies by
course.
now. Probably I
Yeah.
think to 2019, so I think that is 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years. So yeah, we went to visit, and it was a lot of fun. And I have a son now, and pretty soon I think we'll take him over for a visit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but but I do. I think all of that is in me, is in the book. The
Yeah.
Nigerian characters that
Yes.
that I really
Yeah.
loved writing, and I think it's just a very different perspective, as you said, on the genre. Like these are things that are not particularly groundbreaking and new. The genre vengeance is vengeance, but
Uh-huh.
just looking at it from a different perspective and with different characters
Yeah.
that you do not, you might know exist at the back of your head, but you might not think they are might be interesting, or that all these other stuff. But I bring them and I put them together in a pot. And again, it's London, and that's what I love about it. Like, my initial like the initial driver writing it was to just write this character first person, and he never really mentioned his race. So you don't really know it
Yeah.
until somebody calls him a derogatory term, and that's pretty much late in the book. That's not how it happens, because the front cover is a black person, but that's just I wanted people to know that Londoners in this day and age could be any color, could be white, black,
Yes.
Asian,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that story is universal to them. That quest for vengeance, as silly and as stupid as it is, in their moment they don't think so, but that story is not unique to any particular you know
No, because I have to be honest with you. A lot of my reading and passion goes back to Viking times. Yeah.
I like that too.
And I was just seeing that kind of story play out now in London, but with these characters, and
Yeah,
thinking again, universal qualities, storylines that we can identify with, and and be carried along, but see it. I don't know, see it worked out in a different way, but not in a different way.
yeah, I know what I mean. I know.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It's the different the different stakes for a person of color, the different things you have to consider, the different
Yes.
perceptions, like that's why I didn't, when he walks into a room, that's it, the thing, presence and all these sort of things that you know that are there, but are not important to him because he is so focused on his goal. You know what I mean? But you sort of see it in different levels, and it becomes more apparent as it sort of goes up, because the whole essence of the book is that the first one is focused on like sort of street level crime and like down and dirty, and then the second one goes up a level into like what you call middle management, or people that to people watch the news, is the people that get arrested and they get called the gang leaders or something. And then the third one is the higher level up, the billionaires and the politicians that benefit off this, and
Yes.
just twisting that world, a bit like, as I said, the wire, just like this one simple situation, how it affects and how everybody is sort of interconnected. So you think, oh, this street level crime, these are just young boys selling drugs, but ultimately it remains young boys selling drugs because they never get out of it. But the
Yeah.
people that are earning the money at one level up,
Yeah.
and then
What's
one level up.
behind
Exactly.
that, and
Yeah.
and where do we get to in the end? And that, and
Yeah.
that's
So
Mm.
that's also the vision for me, in that you just keep moving up and keep moving up, and just expanding it, and just naturally, as as I've said this, naturally, as he moves up, the I guess the color palette gets more light, because there are more white people in these heavy in this,
Yep.
so there are more characters that are not of color, and you keep going, and then obviously it's a comment on the social system, but you don't really pay attention to it because it's a crime novel, and people are dying, people are not dying. But then if you just sit back and realize, oh, the primary characters in the first one are certain, this primary characters, but obviously we keep Pretty Boy all the way through. Do you know what I mean? And it's that interaction with all these people and all these levels, and and just it's just something I enjoy. Just a way of social commentary true, something you don't really pay attention to. It's just like, but at the end of it, just realize, oh, this is
Yeah,
it.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and again, thank you for sharing with us the way that, the trilogy is going to go, because I think having had that first experience and seeing the way that you have developed the story, I can see I'm going to have a number of sleepless nights ahead of me, and I blame you.
Oh, thank
Now,
you.
there's an element that I really enjoyed, and it comes out in quite a bit of the publicity as well. It's the notion that he has a code of conduct.
Yeah.
And again, I wondered, how important was it for you to ensure that there was this element? It's almost like an element of control.
Yes.
There are things that he won't
Do. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
And it was that kind of aspect to help you as an author not to have to go down certain avenues, or not to have certain actions committed. Why did you choose this code of conduct?
I think for a character, especially with what he's ultimately doing, there has to be some root and interest, and you have to know that he's not I wouldn't say evil, because I think the word creates what the word creates. I think, the drug trade, and like people make those choices because they think they have to make those choices because. But I wanted you to see that he knows that he has to make those choices, but he doesn't make those choices. So he's a man of principle. And then you can then understand that, okay, he's a man of principle, but then you can sort of, you can still question, like, he's a man of principle, but what he's doing at all these points, like, but what is his moral, and how, his moral code is not it's not clear circle. It's, some parts are bent, and I like the fact that, it's a little bit of, would I root for, a person that is just like, okay, he wants vengeance, and because he wants vengeance, but he knows, he appreciates that it's almost never ending, and the more people you exact your, there's just more people to come back on you, and the whole thing of the way he's raised, and he's raised to be a man of principle, but he's also in this world that principle has really nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
What I
and
mean?
those principles get chipped away at,
Yes.
and what aspect are you willing to sacrifice
Yes.
for what you deem to be the greater need?
Yes.
And again, where does that, because you also do a very sneaky, tricky thing, which I liked, was this idea of, because he comes back, because he's been away for 10 years, is that right?
Yeah.
And it made me think, a character that comes back somewhere after 10 years, it's enough time for things to have changed.
Yeah.
So his reaction to that, but how, because either, purposefully or not, let people read the book, he actually shifts the position due to a gift that he's given, and he starts being the target.
Yes.
So it's a real double. That's what I meant by this idea of a roller coaster to the max, because you think you know where this is going, and it's like, no, it's not. When did the notion, I think we can say, because I think it's again in the publicity that he gets given this gift.
Yes. Yeah.
Were you very clear from the start that you wanted him to shift that position?
Yes, because I wanted to show, because if he comes in clean and he does his thing and he goes out, quite clean, and you don't really know much of him, because he doesn't really express unless he's in this like situations where he has to make choices, or he has to do things, and he has to live, and he has to survive. But if he comes in clean and he does what he needs to do, because he's a planner, so he would come in clean and do what he needs to do. But the moment he gets veered off course, how quick does it get back on course? And how quick does he, things happen to him, and then does he not want vengeance for those things that just immediately happened to him, as opposed to how quick does it get back to the original Luke? And all these things happening, so all these things happening, he's trying to solve it, or he's trying to survive, but at the end of the day, he's doing all this just to get to his ultimate goal of his final vengeance. You know what I mean? And it's just a case of, he's now the subject of somebody else's vengeful desires. once he gets the bracelet, but he still doesn't. I think eventually, I guess without spoiling, that's when he realizes that, oh wow, okay, this is just, you know, if I'd stayed away, what I mean, all this wouldn't have happened. Do you know what I mean? Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Ooh. Now, you seem like a very upright moral citizen. Surely you are, again, your profession, but your knowledge of this seedier side of London life, promise me that you didn't put yourself in any position of danger to do your research.
I think danger is relative. Danger is relative. I think I can walk into these sort of places because of what I look like or whatever,
Yeah,
and not be questioned a little bit too much. Obviously, when I open my mouth and speak, they'll be like,
yeah,
"Mm."
yeah, yeah.
But what I mean, it's so I can sort of walk. I think that there's a crack den near the beginning, which is based on a real crack den that I walked into, and I was like, oh, because I can I was thinking of this and I was thinking of writing it, but thankfully, I was raised, differently. My my father was fairly, successful. So he's given me a really
Yeah.
sheltered existence. So, these are not things that so like, yeah, I could write it, but it wouldn't seem authentic. That's what I felt anyway. That could have been silly because in hindsight, I could have gone in there and something stupid could have happened. But I felt I needed to see it a little bit, just live because, you know, it's a bit of a like when I came here and I started having friends, like more friends that were not like from Nigeria and more Londoner friends, and they had these friends, and I would be in the room with them, and then just the way they talk, the way they live, just what the things that they think are normal to me, it's just like, what? You know what I
Jeez.
mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And like,
yeah,
why? Like, you know what I mean? You don't have to, or it's not necessarily that way. And I just felt, okay, let me sort of see how, to the other halves, how that life is. So,
yeah.
for a bit, I would go to tower blocks, I would hang out with, people. No, I wouldn't say hang out because, it was always quite clear that I was a voyeur, just going, seeing and just,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
And and I think I had a sense of it. And and almost that's why I set it when I set it, because that was when I did that. You know what I mean? And then I haven't been back, and I don't feel like I should go back, or
okay, yeah,
and I think now, like, as long as I've created these characters in my head, and they're real people and they make real decisions, so then the world becomes or seems authentic because these are real people in my head. They're not just, even the peripheral characters are not just characters just for one page. If they're on one page, I already know when they were born,
yeah.
what their desires are. They're real people to me. So that way, the entire world is authentic. And you know what I mean? And the fact that people are in this world and they sell drugs or whatever, they still ultimately want the same things that we do. They just go about it fairly different. So, and that's just the way I just had it, I'd say.
Do you feel that the story that you've created in this book, are you wanting people to be aware of these situations?
Yes, but the way but that's the way I sort of, especially with these sort of situations. I am not I'm not a preacher. I'm not get on the high horse and say,
Yeah,
this is happening. But I just felt, what I mean? It's a case of you come in, you read it, you have a good time, and then the next day you see something similar, and you just think, oh wow, yeah, that is, and then you start to question it afterwards. But you've really enjoyed the book, and or some people, it might even happen when they're reading the book and just think, "Oh, why do people feel they have to make this decision? Do you mean why?
yes,
Why is
yeah,
it that?
yeah.
And why are they not? And why has it? I set the book, in 2012, but the world hasn't changed. It's still the same.
Of course,
You
of
know,
course. In fact, I'd probably argue that given economic circumstances, I think we may,
yes,
more people may have had to make decisions.
decisions exactly.
And isn't that interesting? It's almost like if people were given and were able to take other opportunities, would they would they have chosen certain
Yeah,
paths, actions, and again, it's what struck me, like, do people do these things because it's fun, and the free song of the excitement, or is it like this is the only way that I can see in order for me to achieve how things that other people achieve in in other ways.
I think it's just I think a myopic idea of success, because that's what they see, and that's what they think success is. And getting a 9 to 5 and working hard, it's a bit it's a bit long. Like, Jesus Christ, it took forever. But they don't realize that, when you break it out, because again, I'm a lawyer, and I'm from a different stock. And when you break down whatever earnings they are earning, it's nothing. It's really nothing. And it's just, it's so it's not even success by, but it's just, I guess it's a respect. It's, it does have different equity than we do. All those other things are different. How they judge themselves is different, and how that world is. And so it was just a lot of, again, it's a lot of, because when we read and we watch, these gangland things, whether it's, because, I'm a big fan of the Irish gangland stuff, love, hate, and a couple other things. And just like, it's all, it's all similar. It's all people that just grew up and felt they had to do it. There are some people that make the choice to stay in it. They could have gotten out, or there's people that enjoy it. But even in that world, they're different sorts of people. But this is where they are, right? So so that's why, the first one is gangland, and it is centered around the drug trade. But sort of the more it moves on, it's a drug trade, but not seen as gangland. It's just a business. And that's
now, and the question is, as the as the novels progress, could we be forgiven for almost, by the time we get to the end, under the top, that it acquires an aspect of respectability?
Yes, but that's sort of how I want to see, because these people, not that the drug trade would never outwardly get respectability, but the people that you do not know are involved in the drug trade are absolutely respectable. And that's that thing that you just get. And the more it comes up, and the more you can insulate yourself with other businesses, and then you're respected. But your source of income is all the way down, like everybody else down below you is seen as whatever. They end up in prison, but you've almost gotten to a place where you almost cannot be put in prison, just because of how of all the stakes involved, and your political associations and your friendships and all these things have sort of insulated you. And that's just where it's going to lead to, like, and how one thing that happens right at street level just keeps going up and up and up and up, and it's like, oh, okay. And and hopefully it'll make people, force people to realize that, like, when you see the news and a bunch of kids get arrested,
I have a real wish, and whoever might be listening, or even the universe listen, I really want to see your books adapted. Not because I think a book is better when it's adapted or anything like that, but I just think that idea of the stories that you're telling, I think the visual reaches more people.
Yes, it does. Yes, I know that.
And I think I come back and say to you, I think you're telling stories that need to be told, and it's marvelous. To come back to you, your colleagues, what do they think of you as the author?
It's a bit of a weird one. I think people really like it. I don't know. I think maybe because a sort of the sort of law, and how hard it is to get into. Most people don't feel like they can, or there's capacity to do other stuff. And so they sort of admire that. And I guess I think it being a book is just some, I think if I was an artist that was at the take, they will still have that admiration of, oh wow, he has the time to do it, and he's pursuing it, and he's good at it. So there's a lot of, people are very, very respectful and appreciative, and I almost blush, because they're good about it, and they're really proud as well. And it's a good feeling, I have to say. The firm has been very, very good. I don't think most of them have read it, because I think when they read it, like, oh my God, Amen. Like, oh my God, how did they know this? Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? Like, but I think the few people that have read it have really, really enjoyed it. But I think it's different because they watch these TV shows that are similar to it. It's just like knowing the person that, they just, I guess they don't go behind the kitchen. They don't know who's actually writing it,
Yeah.
but they know me,
But they
they
know
see
you.
me. Yeah. And, and they know how I am on a day to day. Because again, I will be the last person in terms of like meeting me and that you think would write such a, like a hard boiled, no holds barred, people go, expect a little bit more, like, oh, soft, because that's pretty much who I am. Like, people, I've been called a hippie several times just because, I'm just a free going, I don't really, no stress, no nothing, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
do like it. And I love it. I love writing, and I love the genre, and I love the characters as well. And and I think it's just one of, like, because when I wanted to start writing, I had a couple ideas, to pick between, like, oh, do I do this, do I do that, and I eventually went with this, just just because I felt, you know I felt it was more ready in my head. The other ideas, again, the way I sort of do it, I sort of, when I sit down to actually write, it's already written in my head. So all the other things, you know, yeah, I'm still writing them in my head, and when they're ready, obviously, when they're ready and this is done, I'll move on to stuff that might be very different, might not, but it's something I enjoy doing. Yeah.
Were you? Did you go no holds barred with regard to the violence? Because there's a hefty aspect to that. Did you censor yourself at all, or did you think, no, this is the story and how I have to tell it?
Yes, I felt that's the story and how I tell it. I wanted it to be unflinching. I wanted you to. I even wanted people to, like, at some point, just like, okay, just like, just close it for a minute. Oh, that's a bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously, when it got past, Steph, our quirker, she sort of dulled that down a bit. Okay, just tone it down a little bit, and and I also appreciate that, because she
Exactly.
and the publishers know the readers more than I do. You know what I mean? So you can,
Exactly. I think it is so important, again, because I often think, an artist, or whatever style of artist we're talking about, if you say, I am, this is it, and this is, and it doesn't matter, but then I wonder, do people miss out? I'm glad in a way that they said to you,
I agree.
Because there are some people now who will, had you had your way, you might have missed out on certain readers.
No, and I still think I am missing out on certain readers, because even the level it is, I've had people like, oh, that book is not, that sort of book is not for me and whatnot, and I can't, like, I can't push it, but I almost want to tell them, yes, but like, when you get into the world, there's a lot more happening. There's, that, yes, the violence happens, but you're almost aware that the violence is happening, and it is unflinching, but like, the world is so real that, yes, you would expect the violence to happen, because I think I've done a good job of building the world and the expectations, and whatnot. And I think that's why I really enjoyed the first chapter, like, just like putting you into it, and just like, okay, this is where we are. And then if you turn to that second page, anybody can have it. Anybody, it can happen to anybody at any point.
Anybody, yeah. And when might it happen? And just be ready, be on your guard.
Exactly.
The other choice that I thought was wonderful. This idea of a good day. It's a day. It happened. It's a day. But and how did you? I know. I know there are certain recollections, flashbacks, so we do get certain details fed in. But that you construct a novel around a day, just like awesome, excellent.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Were you at that from the start, that this has to be contained?
Yes, that's sort of how I had it, because I can remember the time I sort of came up with the idea before I decided to write it was, I was on a bus, and then there was this young kid, like, really, like, going crazy on the phone, talking about killing, I don't know how much he was being serious, because he was on a bus and there were other people on the bus. And I just thought, I mean, where is he going to? Where did he, where's he coming from? What else has he done through today?
Yeah.
And just to follow him in your head and just think about what happens in his life. And that's what I thought. That was the original idea. So I thought, okay, let's follow our central character in a day, like his worst day or his best day, depending on how you look at it, and just follow him and all these things that happen. And so even though I made it a day, I try to make everything that happens realistic. You know what I mean? He comes, and because there's a lot that's already happened in the background that makes the day so feverish. So things happen back and back and back and back and back and back and back, and that's why I felt I needed sometimes just to go out of it and be like, okay, this is why this is happening, and this is why this is happening, or at the end, or sort of like the end a little bit, and just like go all the way back to, oh, this is why all this is happening. You get more, but when you're in it, you're just in it, like, oh my god, does he do what happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? And then at the end, and almost everything's like, okay, this is why all this happened. This is why everything is this way. This is why he is this way. This is why he wants what he wants, and and that's also why I like the first person, because in the first person, it's I, and if you have a protagonist like Pretty Boy, who doesn't really explain stuff to you, it's like, I'm doing this because I am doing this, and you come in with me because I'm telling you what's happening, and
it's my perspective.
Exactly. And before you can question it, like, stuff happens, like, oh, okay, and that's just what sort of way I had it. And so that was the idea, and I sat with it in my head for a while, and I wrote it and I rewrote it in my head until I thought, oh, I think it's ready, and I think it's going to be fun, and I think I really like it. And then while I was writing it, I thought, oh, like, this is fun. So the second book is a month, but the month has a good day to die in it, right bang in the middle of the month. So a lot of the characters that you meet in A Good Day to Die that die or whatever, you meet them again.
Okay, so
And then so they're in there. So it's a lot of choices that it's just like looking at things on a little higher level, more scope. And again, somebody that is at that level, like like, he's not really going to get involved in nitty gritty, like some dude coming back to London. But then there's a lot of other things, that get affected, and like that filter up to him and whatnot. And the third book happens in a year that has the month and the day in it. So that's everybody. So that's the way. So everybody sort of comes back. You know what I mean? And even though what happens to them, you end up still, almost still rooting for them, and still, understanding why they've made decisions, or where it ultimately leads.
But you get more information or more. Yeah. What a beautiful structure that you bring it. Oh man, can you not tell Quercus just to release all these at once? No, I know that's not possible. It's sometimes deferred pleasure.
Hopefully
it's worth waiting for. So I just have a couple more questions for you. I know we could talk, but I don't want to hog your time. And I'm hoping that further down the line we can come back again and revisit.
Absolutely.
Because just to having had the experience with the first book, I'd love to know how I feel when I get into the second. I think you might have already answered this. I think I can probably sense this from the way that you're talking. But do you feel now that when so the hardback came out and now the paperback's there, and or we can Kindle, or we can listen, have you achieved what you set out to do with this book?
I think I think it's blown me out of the water, really. I think I think the experience, because again, even though I still wrote the book and I believe that it was good, and I believe that it should get published, or will get published, and I believe that it should be an audience, it's still different when you see it, when it's happening. And I'm just eternally grateful. It's like at every stage I really haven't had expectations. I hope to get a publisher, Anthony Toppin at Green and Heat, just fantastic. I hope to get an agent rather. I hope to get a publisher, Quercus and Steph, and I hoped to be reviewed in newspapers. It's happening. I hope to be on podcasts like this, talking about my book. It's happening. So everything is just like, it's just all happening, and it's all just wonderful, and it's all just a happy experience for me. And I'm not trying to put too much to it. I'm sure as time goes by, I'm gonna want to be a bestseller, all this sort of stuff. But for now, I am just happy with the way it's going. I'm happy with the audience. I'm happy with the reception, and I'm happy with the reviews. It's just been awesome. So
that is beautiful. I love that. My last question, and this might be difficult because how do you choose? But if there was one aspect that you wanted your readers to retain, okay, a character, a message, an idea, if you could only have one, could you say what that might be?
I don't know. I think for this book, I think vengeance gets you nowhere.
Okay.
Just gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
It's fun when it's fun. It's a fun quest. It's a fun thing to write about because it's such an intense emotion, and people do a lot of craziness on intense emotions. But at the end of it, just just in your small day-to-day life, that's sort of you don't need you really don't need to do it. And that's just the way I've got to live my life. Things happen and I just brush it off.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, it's obviously it's on a different scale in this, and I suppose it's fairly difficult for these characters just because of of their equity, because my equity is not based on what if somebody says something to me and I don't respond and I don't care, it doesn't really affect me. But for other people, that disrespect could be something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just and I just want them to enjoy it and just meet different characters, different but similar characters, like the Nigerian mercenaries. I'm sure they're mercenaries in other books, but they're not Nigerian. They have,
yes,
all these other stuff. Just like the world is big, and we all have them. We all have them, and we all have this lovely, fun characters. And there's more to come in the second one, and there's more to come in the third one. Just a big world.
Amon, thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for your time, for your writing. It's I again, viewers, listeners, seriously, get yourselves in here. And by the end of the book, well, then you can breathe again when you get to the end. That's the thing. I wish you all the very best, not just with this, but those forthcoming books.
Thank you very much.
That sense of a whole. Thank you for sharing. What is coming ahead.
Thank you.
And I look forward to a time when you and I can meet face to face in person.
I look forward to that too. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. All the very best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.